right, what's up? I'm not really an opening statement guy, but I will open with this statement. I'm fired up to be here. Family's fired up to be here, and shoot from the hip with whatever questions you got.
The following is a presentation of Hobson Media. Woohoo!
This is Church Pew Sports, where we connect sports to life and faith.
Could you repeat that first part?
Take a knee.
This is fairy tale stuff. It's as good as it gets.
Lend an ear.
Absolutely glorious.
Hit that subscribe button.
The harder you push, the faster we will all get out of here.
Then get ready to laugh, listen, and learn.
Gentlemen, start your engines, brothers.
No matter your team,
how about you announce that you're getting better?
Your favorite sport.
We got weights and fit. There we go.
We cover it all here on Church Pew Sports.
When something like this happens, I believe it's going to be for the best.
You just blew my mind.
You just blew my mind, and welcome aboard for another edition of Church Pew Sports, where we connect sports to life and faith and have a real fun time doing so. We're so glad you're with us. Bill Hobson here, along with Pastor Paul Miller and David Collins. The three of us are almost always in our various Zoom windows on this podcast. And tonight, we've got a lot of ground to cover. In fact, we're going to get into the state of Michigan announcing high school NIL. We're going to get into the whole Bill Belichik debacle with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which makes no sense. We'll talk Super Bowl stuff. We're going to get into a little bit of everything. But to start things off tonight, we really do have to tip our caps to the Hoosier football program. David tips his ski cap to them. And a moment like this, Paul, I think serves as an ideal moment for you to introduce our special guest. Who amongst us didn't come up off the couch when the Heisman Trophy winner did this?
He's going to take off and run. Mendoza weaves his way first and goal, diving toward the end zone. Touchdown!
Just one of the most stunning runs that I can recall ever in championship moment history. So, Paul, with that, why don't you introduce our special guest right at the top of the show?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to have my friend Kevin Boaz with us on the podcast. Kevin, the first time I met Kevin, we were talking college football. And back then, bro, there wasn't a lot to say as a Hoosiers fan, I don't think. But that has changed, right? That has changed. So we're excited to hear you kind of share your perspective from inside the Hoosier Mania kind of echo chamber and everything else. But we do have a little hazing ritual that we take all first-time guests through. It's fairly painless. It's really just one question. So the question, just so that others who are listening get to know you just a little bit, Kevin, would be, who are your irrational sports loyalties? Like maybe we would assume that Indiana football is going to be at the top of that, but who are the teams that you follow, any sport, any level, that those who know you would say, dude, you're a little bit over the top here. You need to dial it down a bit. Who would that be for you?
Yeah, well, definitely the Hoosiers, although it seemed pretty irrational for quite a while. And then, yeah, I'm a lifelong Denver Bronco fan as well, John Elway fan. So I'm having a pretty irrational week on that side of life. But yeah, those are my two main ones. Yeah.
I know you went to Indiana. Where'd the Broncos thing come from?
I grew up in Colorado. And then returned here after college. So I was always a Bronco fan, and then ended up in Indiana as well.
So from a distance, like David and I are Michigan fans, and from a distance, it was easy to root for me for Indiana. David, I don't know if you felt the same way, because it seemed like they were establishing dominance without the headline always being how much money they were spending on the rosters. I understand Mark Cuban wrote checks, but we didn't hear about it every minute of every day. And I don't know, David, you can speak to this if you feel differently. It just seemed like they were driven by this very unique coach that had them all buying in at a time when I don't think very many people believed they could do much of anything. It was pretty powerful.
Yeah, I think it's funny that he says was an irrational football Hoosiers fan. It was very irrational the opposite way for the entire history of the Indiana Hoosiers to be a fan of theirs. Totally irrational. Yeah. And to be fair, Cuban, I don't think started signing the checks until after there was some success there. But yeah, I mean, one, obviously you love to see that 3 different Big Ten champs have won in 3 consecutive years. I think that's awesome. But it was easy to root for. Mendoza's a great quarterback, easy to root for. I used to live in Florida, so a lot of my friends are Miami fans, and I'll be honest, none of them deserved to have another championship. So it was fairly easy, and I'll give it up to Chris Fowler too. That was a great call on that Mendoza run.
Yeah, it really was. So Kevin, what's it like in Hoosier land? How does it feel, and how has this coach led to a redefining of how to build a winning program?
Oh, man, it feels great. And having my college roommates, I was there 93 to 97. So several of my roommates followed them and traveled with them along the way. And so I vicariously, got pictures from the games and got to track them. I think they went to every game. And then when it went to Miami, it was so expensive. Some of them sold tickets to pay for the other 2 trips. So, but yeah, it was just a tremendous ride. When I was at IU, I think in the 3C, I was there 3 years, transferred from University of Hawaii to there, and they were 2-22 in the Big Ten in my college career there. So our biggest win was we lost to Penn State 13-10, and they dropped 2 spots. Back then the AP ranking was everything. They dropped 2 spots in the rankings on the top 3. So that was amazing for us.
for winning against Indiana, they dropped 2 spots?
Yeah, because they should have beat them by 20 or 30.
That's tremendous.
I don't want to bury the lead here, Kevin, but did you just say you transferred from Hawaii to Bloomington, Indiana? What are we doing here?
I was chasing basketball coaching, so I wanted to be a basketball coach as a manager at the University of Hawaii for their basketball team. And so I transferred to Indiana to get a sports marketing degree, and I took coaching classes under Bobby Knight's assistance. He'd show up occasionally.
So I was just going to ask, was he officially supposed to be in the classroom teaching, or was he just handing it off to whoever was warm and breathing nearby?
It was whoever was warm and breathing, but when he showed up, you knew it. Here's the quick fun story is that I left my bag in the aisleway. You never know when he's going to come in. He's 6'4", super intimidating, walks in, kicks my bag, says, "Get this bleep out of the way." And I tell you, I was shaking in my boots. He was intimidating.
So in Indiana lore, both past and now present, who do you think is the current definition of Indiana sports? Because forever it was Coach Knight. Even while he was no longer coaching, even, he passed away, all those things, it was always Bobby Knight. That's the first thing you heard of or thought of when Indiana was mentioned. Is it now officially a football school? And what happens to the legacy of Coach Knight?
I think Cignetti kind of spoke about it well. He talked about his admiration of Coach Knight, his antics, his intensity. So there's a connection there, but it's going to take a lot to replace the legend and lore of Bob Knight, even though, I was there the year of the choking incident, and then the year after I graduated was the removal of Bobby Knight. It did end with a little bit of a tainted history there, but man, you go throughout Indiana, his influence still ripples. I mean, if you played for him, he'd help you get a job for the rest of your life. He was a very loyal man, but Cignetti, I mean, it's a football school now. I mean, of course, last night we had a big win against Purdue, but we're struggling to adjust to the new world of college basketball.
Just say it. Just say Cignetti is the thing you associate with Indiana now. Just say it.
Well, it's true. I mean, from now on, especially with the bravado he came in on, and I didn't see his press conference, but I did
Google him.
whenever he took the mic at a basketball game and insulted all your schools.
He did. Yes, he did.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's just owning the moment. And you can, NIL, you can say all of that. But, I mean, Texas and Alabama had all the best players, 5 stars for years. They didn't go undefeated. It takes a coach to bring a team together, not just, money or talent. And I think we know he had a significant impact, but, money helps.
Paul, your friend Kevin here has now glossed over 2 things. Number 1, the Hawaii to Indiana move, and number 2, the choking incident. He just kind of said the choking incident as if we were just going to kind of skate right past the choking incident, because in Bob Knight lore, there was so many of them on the list that you never knew which one was going to be the headline, but eventually they led to his removal, although it was highly controversial even then after he choked a kid that they would let him go. You now have this dynamic leader in Coach Cignetti who doesn't at least appear so far to be dynamic and controversial. Coach Knight was both of those things. So from a guy who has now been a fan and a student under both styles, I don't know, which one do you gravitate towards more?
Well, I mean, I always said this, is Bob Knight just blew my mind when he talked about basketball and coached it. But he had this philosophy, and he said it, I want to tear your kid down and rebuild him while they're at Indiana, and you cannot do that anymore. He got that from his West Point days, and he just didn't know how to adjust or gain emotional intelligence. So I didn't respect him as much off the court. So far, Cignetti is pretty fun off the court and seems to carry himself well. And just, I mean, he's got the moment. Bob Knight's moment was smart on the baseline with the jumper, but the moment of making that gutsy call in the national championship for an undefeated season, it was phenomenal.
So when you're hanging out with your IU buddies, in the conversation, somebody turns the conversation to, do you remember when Coach Knight blank? What's the story that pops? What are the stories that surface? Maybe he choked that guy or whatever it is, I don't know.
Yeah, it was fun times because it was so exciting to go loud. So when I was there, you had to get football tickets, sign up for those in order to be put in the basketball ticket lottery as a student. So that was required. I guarantee it's not that way anymore. Some of the, so I was there, and he did a halftime speech at a senior day, and he had his famous line that we still remember and joke about. That's when he talked to the reporters. He says, "When I'm gone and buried, I want you to bury me upside down so all the reporters can, look up the rest of the quote if you want to hear it."
It's Church Pew Sports after all.
Yeah. So we had a good friend that she dated, Neil Reed, the young man who, had the incidents of him being grabbed by the coach, and that were on video. We were a little bit unkind to him. We were a little defensive of Coach Knight. A lot of the students were. Neil Reed unfortunately died young of a heart attack after that, but he went on to coach college basketball. But I mean, Knight just owned the place. My best story I will share with you that's interesting is Athletes in Action would come in. Back then, they could bring in pro players, and they would play exhibitions in preseason. So that, like, David Wood was probably the best player at the time on their team. And so I talked in class to Knight's assistant, and I said, we'll make you a bet. They've never let Athletes in Action share. They've only let them play. Said, if Athletes in Action beats IU tonight, then let one of their players come in your locker room and just share for a little bit. And so, the game happened. Athletes in Action won by like 10. Knight was so ticked off. Yeah, he just went against his word. He would not let anyone near that locker room, near the players. And so that was disappointing, but not shocking at all.
No, that doesn't surprise any of us, that's for sure.
No.
David, I have a hypothetical for you, which is one of those things we'll never really settle. But let's take this 2025 Indiana Hoosier football team in a matchup against the 2023 Michigan Wolverine undefeated. We have to talk about undefeated national champions, so it has to be in the same category. So the McCarthy, Corum, Edwards with actual receivers version of Michigan. Who wins in that showdown?
We're talking about undefeated national champions, and I noticed you didn't mention Paul's favorite team.
I'm just talking about the category.
Just the undefeated national champions. Okay,
right. Your wins where you can get them.
That's the narrow lane that we're in. It's still a nice room, but it's a table off to the side. Yeah.
You need to clarify your question: is Stallions with Michigan or not? Because that.
Yeah, he wasn't at the title game, so no, we'll just take it right from title game performances.
True Michigan man, Connor Stallions, real hero,
American hero, patriot.
So, I guess the interesting thing is when you talk about Indiana, one of the things that we found out about the way they recruit, et cetera. I mean, they got Cignetti and all those guys from James Madison who just won the championship the year before. They all come over, and he ends up hitting the portal really hard. And I mentioned this to you guys before, but like the average age of a starting player on Indiana's football team was 23 years old.
Yeah.
The average age for a starting football player on the Chicago Bears was 25 years old. So, I mean, there's a 2-year gap between Indiana and the Bears, and there's like a 3.5-year gap between Indiana and most of the other teams that they play. And it's smart. It's winning in the margins. They found something and said, hey, let's let every other team train our players to get the 3 stars out of high school, train them up for 2 or 3 years, and then we'll get them, even though they're not necessarily NFL talents, but they're 4-year college starters that are now coming over to Indiana. So they found a way to utilize the system to benefit themselves in a way that no one had thought of yet. Now, a lot of teams are starting to do this.
Right.
And I know there's several coaches that have said, we're looking for 15, 20 players maybe out of the portal or out of high school, and everyone else we want out of the portal. 2, 3, 4 years of experience. And now they're letting guys stay for 6 years and 7th years and then randomly telling Chambliss he can't stay for another year. Well, we won't get into that part of it. You know how I feel about the NCAA. The difference with Michigan's team was a lot of those guys were 3- and 4-star recruits that stayed for 4 years or 5 years. So they were an older team when they ended up winning the national championship. So I think it would be an interesting matchup. I think Michigan had more like name players that you knew, but the one issue is that Mendoza, even in the games he didn't play that well, when a play had to be made, he made the play every time. It was unbelievable how good that dude was in clutch moments. Yeah. So I don't know. To me, that one's kind of a toss-up, but I guess they have 16 wins. We only had 15, so we'll have to give it to them.
Kevin, are you seeing that matchup the same way?
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm actually very impressed. A Michigan fan was that kind.
We don't hate Indiana.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think it would come down to the trenches because Michigan owned the offensive and defensive line. They were pretty strong. So I don't know. That's where IU did gain their strength by getting especially Coogan off of. And they actually got hit from Notre Dame, so that was a pretty big win there.
He's the guy that won the MVP, right, for the Rose Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave him a shout out like a month or so ago on this very same podcast.
Yeah.
But let me also throw in, Miami had, at least the defensive side of the football, had the defensive trenches won against Indiana too, but they still found a way to hold off Ruben Bain enough to win that game. So I mean that's where Indiana's so interesting, is it's not necessarily that they were going to wow you and dominate you in all facets of the game. But when, like, what they needed to do, they always found a way to get done. And that's what was so impressive about.
And a lot of people don't realize those coaches, like most of them stayed together at 3 different schools.
Yeah.
So they knew each other so well when it came to calling plays. I think that was kind of an unspoken advantage as well. And just their trust in one another and their system.
The Cignetti innate ability to find talent from older players, as David said. And Paul, one of the things that this new era has brought about is we're not seeing nearly as many in-home, have to eat mom's chili to impress her so that you can have
spend the night at a kicker's house.
Right, so you can have the 17-year-old kid come to your school, because now I think what's happening, and we'll see it play out if nothing changes, and I'm guessing it won't, is that Division II schools are the ones who are going to be the developmental system. So the Saginaw Valleys, the Grand Valleys, the Ferris States of the world are going to get these guys for a couple years, get them in the regimen of college football, and then the Chamblises of the world will all of a sudden be noticed in the case of Ferris State, because they're winning national titles there, and then they will get taken away. Meanwhile, these Division II coaches are like, oh man, we put everything we had into this kid, and he just waved goodbye to us because somebody's going to offer him $500,000 or more to go play at the next level. So
here's my question. Yeah. Here's my question about all that. And I'd be really interested to hear how you guys answer this. Do you think the IU model, the Cignetti model, is sustainable? Like, is IU now heading towards becoming a blue blood of college football, like over the long haul? Or is it kind of not a one-off necessarily, but a blip? Like, do you think the way they're doing it is sustainable?
I think it's sustainable for now because they're the first ones that have gotten to this table. I think in another 4 or 5 years, you might see somebody else find a different strategy, but it's always different depending on. So Miami went to the national championship game this year. They're on their third. They're going to get Mensa from Duke. So they went from Cam Ward, Heisman winner, number 1 overall pick, to Carson Beck, the highest paid quarterback. And now they're getting Darian Mensa from Duke, and his number 1 wide receiver is coming too. So that's one way to do it. The other way, as Bill was kind of mentioning, North Texas, the coach and the quarterback got hired by Oklahoma State. So it's like, if you're going to be a coach of one of those lower tier teams, like a James Madison, like a North Texas, like whatever, get the quarterback, and then you and your quarterback are going to get the upgrade to a new school. And all of a sudden, we know when you have the right player in that position, it automatically gives you a shot. But I think Indiana, for the next, like, at least 2, 3, 4 years, will consistently find themselves, 9, 10, 12 win seasons pretty regularly because they found a loophole before everyone else has.
Plus, when these kids now are having multiple options of places to go, based solely, by the way, on class schedule, as you know, Indiana's an attractive destination. It never, ever was. But because of of course, winning, and then the Cignetti factor seems to be pretty well received by the players. I haven't seen a mass exodus of players saying, man, I can't believe I survived that mess. I'm out of here. No, just the opposite. And they want to keep on keeping on in Bloomington, which is not necessarily known as a premier destination for living, but it's a pretty good place to play football suddenly. So in answer to Paul's question, I think it is sustainable because everything is imitated at some point, until the rest of the college football world catches on and maybe develops the ability to recognize talent. So Kevin, how do you see it?
I look to Deion Sanders here in Boulder, and I mean, they're having a mass exodus of players now. So his bump, he brought his son up, and obviously Hunter, both sons. So, yeah, I agree. I think other teams are going to catch up. You're going to have to find a new way. I think Cignetti is a good coach, but we have to remember this season was just the pieces fell together. They had 3 games they should have lost or could have lost.
Penn State game. Woo.
Yeah, Penn State, Iowa was bumbled by Iowa. They were dominating us. I think it was just one of those magical years. You want to hang on to it, but yeah, they're definitely going to be relevant for a while. But people are going to catch up. like I lived down, I pastored in College Station and during the Manziel years. And I mean, as soon as he showed up, I mean, the locker room was millions of dollars just invested by these oil guys that were graduates. It's amazing. To me, I think of it like these guys with the money, they like gambling, but now they're invited into the game where they can invest and make a difference in their actual team. And it's pretty sad actually that just take the amateur out of the word.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's drop the pretense, right?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations to you and the Hoosiers, and it was a great run. It was so fun to watch them. And Mendoza, I don't know how you can't like the kid. The guy's just likable in pretty much every way, all the way around. And I hope he lands on an NFL team that will not get him beaten into the ground. I hope he gets a chance
to the Raiders. So you better fix that situation one way or the other.
That is rough.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
you can pull a Manning and refuse.
Exactly.
If he has eligibility left, he could probably make more money back in college anyway. So I think we will see some players saying, I'm going to sit this one out if I'm going to end up in a no-win situation. Let's move on. And again, Kevin, you stay with us as long as you want. It's up to you. But we've got to take some time to talk about this.
You're going to tell me Spygate and Deflategate. This is a voting body that has for years insisted that it only focuses on what happened on the field. Are you going to hold Tom Brady out over Spygate and Deflategate too? Like, are you going to be consistent with that? And by the way, there's guys in there that have been suspended for performance-enhancing drugs, for gambling, for all kinds of things. So now, when it comes to Belichick, it matters, and it's never mattered before. I think it's a crock.
So I just think that, to me, I don't understand it. I mean, I was with them every day. If he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, there's really no coach that should ever be a first ballot Hall of Famer, which is completely ridiculous because people deserve it, and he's incredible.
We turn our attention to this just really strange. It's not going to change anybody's life, but it's really a strange story that somehow in his first year of eligibility for the Hall of Fame, the, I think, consensus greatest coach in the history of the NFL outside of Marty Mornhinweg has not been elected on the first ballot to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And there's a lot of controversy going about as to how that happened. Did Bill Polian have a play in it? Did he have a part in it? Well, he swears that he didn't. He's gotten other testimony to back up his claims, and yet at times he has said, I really don't remember how I voted. It's so confusing. So, Paul, I'm going to let you start this off. What is going on with this Belichick thing? And none of us on this program are huge, I haven't heard us say that we're huge Patriot or Belichick fans, but we do recognize greatness, and we're talking about the greatest coach that's ever been in the NFL.
Well, I think what's going on is like we're running the risk of the Hall of Fame becoming like an irrelevant thing. If it's going to be, I don't want to use the word politicized, but if it's going to be manipulated by guys who have an axe to grind against somebody for personal vendetta kind of stuff, right? Like, I don't believe Polian for a second that he didn't do with it. Yeah. But if that's going to be what starts to happen, I think it's just going to water down the significance of people making it into the Hall of Fame. And pretty soon people aren't going to care anymore. It's like what happens to the Pro Bowl when Shedeur Sanders makes the roster. It's the same kind of thing. So I think that's what's going on. I don't know if we'll ever know the truth. It's just silly.
David, I think cameras in the conversation room, nomination room, would be a must watch. Take the NFL Network, put it on there for 7 hours on the day that they're doing all the discussing. Let us see it all. And I bet you things would change a bit if there was some open and transparent conversation. But I don't know. What do you think? I find this whole thing really quite stunning.
Well, first, I just wanted you brought up Marty Mornhinweg, and I just wanted to remember his greatest moment.
Taking the win?
When overtime was sudden death and he chose to kick so that they could get the win.
In Chicago. Yeah, in Chicago.
I agree with you guys on the Bill Polian thing. I mean, famously said that 2-time MVP Lamar Jackson should be a wide receiver. And he clearly has worked out as a quarterback a little bit. This voting process, why it's not just open and we can see who voted for who.
Right.
In my opinion, the NFL needs to do the right thing and step in and say, we're superseding. That's the thing is, I don't know who owns or runs the Hall. Like, is it an NFL product? Is it I have no idea, but the NFL should step in and say, guys, like, all they need to do is step into a room and just go, hey, guys, come on.
What are we doing?
The only argument they need. He won 6 Super Bowls. He changed the entire concept of what we know about football. He developed a culture. He, and say what you will, like, was it more Tom Brady than, I think it was probably a little more getting the right quarterback than it was his brilliance. But that quarterback doesn't get that first Super Bowl, and they don't get off on that run without him, like, setting the culture, like, all this different. There has never been a more no-brainer first ballot Hall of Famer that I can think of that's not getting in. Like, is Brady going to have to sit out a year because he was a part of Spygate? Like, what are we doing here?
David, in an analogy that probably only you and I will get, it would be like if Hiawatha had a Hall of Fame and Billy Walker wasn't inducted on his first ballot run through. It just makes absolutely no sense. Kevin, your thoughts on the Belichik bizarreness?
No, I think Pauline has to be behind some of it. He's just kind of an embittered man, but yeah, it's just shocking, and it does. I agree. It devalues it, and it loses the aura about it and the respect. So.
One of you,
what do you think it does? Sorry, what do you guys think it does to Belichick? Like it does something to the Hall, but it's now got people talking about how great Bill Belichick was as a coach.
I think media-wise, it actually kind of works in his favor because you have people from all over. Like Robert Kraft came out with a statement and said, whatever anyone perceives about my personal relationship with Bill, he is the greatest coach ever. He is responsible for all our Patriots' success. Like, he is a surefire first bet. And you got people that hated him and people that loved. You have people all over the map. So it's kind of a good PR move. Like, all news is good news, right? But yeah, I think personally, it's got to hurt a little bit. I'm sure Jordan is over there like making sure he's all right. But I mean, I would be hugely offended if I was him. But at the same time, you get to turn on the TV and hear everyone talk about how great you are.
Jimmy Johnson, who was just inducted, I think just a few years ago, was on blast today. He called that committee a bunch of cowards, and he's not going to the ceremony. Again, none of the four of us and anybody listening is probably going to lose a lot of sleep over this, but there are moments in sports where the bias is so incredibly obvious that it's obvious to the point of being embarrassing. And I do agree that the league should just step in and say, listen, I know we don't own this hall. You all have your own committee, and David Baker, that big guy, knocks on the hotel room door and lets you know whether you're in or out while you're anxiously waiting in the room. And then at the NFL honors night before the Super Bowl, we bring you out. I understand that. They are intrinsically connected together. Right? The league may not own the hall, but there's no hall without the league.
Well, the crazy thing is, it took the perfect cocktail of people in a room for this not to happen.
Yes.
If you put any 50 of us, any 50 random people in a room and ask them, 100% of the people are going to say yes. It is this specific group of people. It's like how everything had to happen perfectly. Like it's like the OJ trial. Like it just had to go that way exactly. Otherwise, any other scenario, it would have gone opposite.
Now that's a good. There's a comparison I didn't see coming.
Yeah.
The white Bronco chase. All right, next question, and this is for all of you. Which of the professional sports all-star games is the most watchable? Rank them down to the least watchable. And I asked that because of Shedeur Sanders being proclaimed a Pro Bowler, because several other quarterbacks either are hurt or just said, I'm not going to this thing.
Or are playing in the Super Bowl.
Or playing a Super Bowl. So he gets named, and again, it makes the farce that is the NFL Pro Bowl even more so. It used to be, by the way, I'll ramble for just a second, then I'll shut up. Back when players didn't make life-defining money every year, the trip to the Pro Bowl to Hawaii, which was all paid by the league, and then the winning team players would get a few $1,000s each. I think they went out there and they actually played. There were fights. I remember that there were fights almost every year, and guys would appreciate the trip that they probably wouldn't otherwise have taken. That's changed. So now they're not going out there. Now it's a flag football game and a skills competition. We just pray Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't get hurt while he's playing defensive back in a flag football game. So which of these all-star games? We've got baseball, we've got football, we've got the NBA, and I think there's still a hockey all-star game, but I've never seen it. How are you ranking them? Paul, let's start with you.
I think I'm putting Major League Baseball All-Star Game at the top of the list just because it's interesting for me as a on the margins baseball fan to see these great pitchers just stacked one on top of each other going up against all the strongest hitters. That's interesting to me. I don't have any interest at all in watching like the Battle of the Network Stars kind of version of the pro or whatever it is. You know, that's there's nothing about that that's intriguing to me. And I haven't watched the NBA All-Star Game since man, I don't know the last time I watched it because I don't watch the NBA that much anymore. So, yeah, and so I would probably say baseball, hockey, and then I don't care and I don't care.
Yeah, that's fair. Kevin, what's your ranking?
I used to skip class to go watch Pro Bowl practices out in Hawaii. But if you're going just today, right, because the baseball All-Star Game, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like they're skinning that game like it's home field advantage, right?
I think they changed that.
Did they go back again?
But just recently, within the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but that one to me still holds the most intrigue. And I don't watch a ton of baseball, but I watch that. And then I would go basketball and then football after that. And then I've never watched I'll watch and I'll put Olympic hockey after that.
Now,
That's an all-star game.
I'm interested in David's take because David plays flag football. So I'm wondering if that bumps the NFL up at all in your list. What's your rankings?
I mean, I don't know if I have rankings for the All-Star Game because I don't really watch any of them. I'd say baseball is the one that I watch the most of. The only thing I ever cared about with the All-Star Games was like the NHL skills competition was awesome back in the day, watching Sergei Fedorov fly up and down the ice. But there's just not love for the spectacle anymore. I mean, the dunk contest used to matter. Like it used to be a big deal. It's just not anymore. Like they can all dunk. They're all amazing. So, I mean, I guess the only one that I would actually ever tune into would be the baseball one. And usually that's just like last year because Scooble, would start in the game and I wanted to see the Tigers guys play. But, all-star games to me, they like for the NFL, I mean, it used to be, you remember when Sean Taylor absolutely obliterated a punter. Yes. Like, I mean, just totally unnecessarily, but there's still pieces of that punter lying on that field. It used to be kind of cool because you'd see the best go up against the best, but there's no juice in any all-star game to me, like I said, outside of occasionally watching Major League Baseball.
Yeah, there's just too much risk of injury for those guys to go all the way out. I think baseball.
And as far as Pro Bowls go, we talked about the Shedeur Sanders. The NFL, to me, I've only cared about all-pros. If you're a first or second team all-pro, that's the all-stars of the NFL. Yeah. Whoever you can tell me, this guy made 8 Pro Bowls. Don't care. Doesn't mean a thing to me.
Yeah, that's fair. By the way, I just for the record, I think baseball is the sport most likely to have guys going at full speed.
Yeah.
It's hard to not go full speed in baseball. If you've watched 3 minutes of an NBA All-Star game in the last 7 years, there's more defense played on a Saturday morning third grade girls team than there is in those NBA All-Star games, even down to the last minute. They've tried everything. The commissioner has scolded the players. They don't care. They're making $80 million a year. It does not matter. And at some point, if it wasn't so lucrative for the host city, they would probably just do away with it. But unfortunately, it's making money for the host city. All right, good stuff. So we're going to move into our segment called Holy Discontent. And Kevin, you're new with this. So this is where you get a chance to just kind of vent and blow off a little bit of steam about something that's irritating you in the world of sports.
It's time to blow off some steam. Get it off your chest. Rant about what's most bothering you.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
It's time for Holy Discontent.
All right, I'm going to go first. I don't usually do this. I'm going first. I got a text this afternoon from a guy, Paul, that you know, John Fitzsimmons. He's been on the podcast before. He said, I can't wait to hear what you're going to say about the MHSAA, that's the Michigan High School Athletic Association, giving their blessing to high school NIL. Okay. What on earth are we doing? Why was this necessary? David, in 15 seconds or less, why was it necessary for college to introduce NIL?
It was necessary for college. Well, actually, I was never advocating for NIL. I was advocating for college kids to just straight up get paid like workers at an institution. But NIL was necessary because it was a way to circumvent around the quote unquote amateurism laws to get those players the money that they deserve. Now, it went unregulated, and now that it's unregulated, it's total chaos. So eventually there's going to need to be a forming of some kind of union, and there's going to need to be a collective bargaining agreement, et cetera, et cetera. And the one thing I will say about the high school situation is the caveats are no money can come from anyone associated with the school, and no money can come from any kind of collective. So we all know that this is going to go smoothly.
Okay, your 15 seconds are up. You were supposed to say in college they're getting paid because the schools were making billions off of these kids. That, my friends, is not the case in high school. My alma mater, the mighty Clio Mustangs, is generating zero revenue from its sports. But if a kid walks in and says, I now have a sponsorship from Hobson Ford back in the day, that's okay, and this kid can get paid. Listen, the private schools in the state of Michigan are already recruiting most of the public school talent. If you go to Ford Field for the football championships the day after Thanksgiving, you will see 80% of the divisions are won by private schools. Why? Because they took all the kids from the public schools, because they can give them scholarships and they can otherwise attract them with great schools and all that. Imagine now how much more pronounced that's going to be. I have no idea how or why the MHSAA came to this, but it was not because the schools were benefiting from these kids. The kids are benefiting from the schools. You can make the argument at the college level. This is ridiculous at the high school level, and it is not going to go well. It's like when our state said, let's put casinos everywhere. It'll take care of everything. How's that working out? Same kind of concept. All right, Paul, you're wholly discontent. I'm fired up now.
So I'm taking a little bit of a departure here and stepping into something that we don't normally do here on Church Pew Sports. I'm almost going to get political.
Uh-oh.
So at the Australian Open, I kind of caught wind of the fact that, well, first of all, the U.S. Is deep on the men's and the women's draw in tennis. And so they have a lot of players that are doing well in the Australian Open, right? And there's an Australian reporter who in all the press conferences after all of the athletes are winning their tennis matches, who's basically asking the U.S. tennis pros, do you still have pride representing the United States because of everything that's going on in the country? And there's just no place for it. I think we have Amanda Anisimova, who's a woman tennis player, like ranked number 6 in the world, I think, trying to deal with this guy asking these questions. I think we have her response, which was pretty good.
Yeah, and before I play it, just a quick note, I do believe that the reporter is from the New York Times. Here we go.
Oh, great. That makes sense.
Congratulations on the win. I've been asking a lot of the American players just how it feels to play under the American flag right now, and I'm curious how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, I was born in America, so I'm always proud to represent my country. And yeah, a lot of us are doing really well, and it's great to see a lot of, great athletes on the women's side, on the men's side. So yeah, I feel like we're all doing a great job representing ourselves.
Sorry, do you mind if I follow up? Sure. Sorry, just to clarify a little, I mean, sort of in the context of the last year of everything that's been happening in the U.S., does that complicate that feeling at all?
I don't think that's relevant.
She handled it well.
I don't think that's relevant. It's not relevant. It's like when Steve Kerr ever says anything in his press conference, or I'll just stop right there. Keep the politics out of the sports.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not relevant.
Kevin, I can't imagine that just a few days after an undefeated national championship, you have a whole lot of holy discontent built up in your world. But the floor is yours. What would you like to share?
Well, yeah, I actually took Sunday's Denver loss pretty well because I just remembered the high I was on from Indiana. But, I mean, my discontent is really, when did a field goal become a negative 4-point play in the minds of coaches?
Right.
It's worth 3. And I think the Cignetti effect was totally in there, because I think hearing Sean Payton's explanation, to me, it just heard like, I wanted to have a Cignetti moment on 4th down to say, oh, look at that coach, the bravado he had. He called the right play with a backup QB and make himself the hero. So, yeah, I don't like losing to the Patriots, but if I were to have a discontent, it's just kick the field goal when the weather's good.
You are talking to 2 Detroit fans who have used that phrase a few times in the last couple of years. David,
that's so true.
David, you're wholly discontent.
Yeah, just to add a little bit to that, the Rams didn't kick 2 field goals when they were in 4th and short situations, and they ended up losing by 4. So if they would have kicked the field goals when they had points instead of losing it on 4th down, and then obviously the very next game, if the Broncos would have just taken those points, and Stidham didn't just throw the ball backwards to nobody for no reason.
Right.
There's no reason the Broncos should have lost that game. That was Sean Payton. While he's a great coach, I've always been frustrated with his coaching because he is very, very stubborn, and he will against the teams that can't run the ball, he'll just throw it 50 times, or that can't stop the run, he'll just throw it 50 times. It's aggravating how he coaches. But anyways, I'll set that aside. I can break all that down for you guys later. My holy discontent is with 2 guys named Scott in the baseball world.
Oh.
Scott Harris.
Yep.
Because refuses to make any moves, refuses to do anything, it bothers me for the Tigers. I am very frustrated with Scott Harris. In fact, I'm frustrated with all of Detroit sports. The Lions never make any big moves. The Wings need to make a big move. The Pistons need to make a move. The Tigers need to make a move. They all need to make moves, and they're not doing it. So that's frustrating. So that's kind of my holy discontent in that regard. The second one, I think everybody that knows this person's name can agree, Scott Boras.
Yeah.
All right, listen. I love Tarek Skubal more than I love my nieces and nephews. All right. But that being said, that's obviously a joke. I like Skubal has said, Scott, take over this. I'm not even gonna think about it. I'm just gonna play baseball. Scott Boras is he refused, so the Tigers submitted $19 million a year for this year for Skubal in arbitration. And what's supposed to happen is they send it over to the Boras and the agent responds with, no, we're looking for $35 million. And then the Tigers go, okay, we'll go $22 million. It's a negotiation. Scott Boras didn't respond to a single thing that the Tigers had sent. And then right at the deadline, he had to submit their request. They put in what was $32 million a year. And so now the arbitration committee can't choose a middle ground. They have to choose either $32 million a year or $19 million. So he totally screwed the Tigers in this process because the guy only cares about money. And I've heard a lot of people in the baseball industry say he acts like but doesn't actually care about his players. He wants the most money, and that's it. Skubal likes Detroit, would like to stay in Detroit, but he's not a part of the negotiations. He's just going to let Scott do it. And this is the kind of dirty trick Scott Boras plays, and I can't stand him, and I'm very frustrated, and I'm going to miss Tarek Skubal when he's a Dodger. And also, I ranted about the Dodgers a couple weeks ago. I still hate the Dodgers.
That was loaded. Yeah, that was loaded. That's a cathartic venting.
A lot more, but
Now Kevin knows what holy discontent is normally like, and it's pretty solid. Now we move on to that guy.
Right now, this minute, today, this week, I am the man!
This is where we sing the praises of somebody doing something well, because we've just vented about all the other stuff. So Paul, why don't you lead us off?
Yeah, I am going to give that guy this week to Paul Feinbaum.
No chance.
Because he said what Josh Pate has been unwilling to say when he apologized for what he had to say about Indiana and the Big Ten and everything else. It's just and I actually do think he did a really good job with this. So here you go.
There can be debate on whether Indiana had the best season in college football history, but there can be no debate. It is the greatest story in the history of the game. And what made it even more amazing is how people misunderstood what Coach Cignetti was doing in Bloomington. But let me assure you, nobody was more incorrect in understanding that process than me. Almost everything I said throughout the season about him and about Indiana was wrong, and it was an epic failure on my part.
And he goes on for another 20 seconds of apology.
Yeah, and he even says the Big Ten's the best conference in football.
Yes.
I mean, so well done, Paul. Like when you speak out of turn and you're wrong, own it and stand up and say, I was wrong and I'm sorry.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well done. My that guy is not normally associated with sports at all, but anybody who has watched games on television, let's just say for the last 20 years, you know that we went through a decade plus where every single commercial was for some magic pill that a couple would take when they were taking hot baths in tubs on the top of a hill. I don't know how they got the water up there. I don't know why they decided to sit up on top of the hill, but it was for those pills, the little blue thing. And if something happened for more than 4 hours, you better call your doctor. For a decade and a half, that was every commercial break. And then thankfully, I guess once all that stuff entered the generic phase, there was no more big money to be made in it, and things have changed. Then we went through the automotive phase where all the commercials were for cars. That's fine. But we know the phase we're in now. And every commercial is for some form of online gaming. Everything.
Yeah.
FanDuel, put their naming rights on the network that's about to go out of business that's owned by Sinclair. There are 13 major league teams that have not been paid their rights fees by FanDuel Sports. The Tigers are one of them. They're owed over $50 million. That network's about to go dark. There's a scramble going on for what's going to come next, all because the proliferation of all this stuff is not delivering, and it's harming especially young men. And that guy is Dave Ramsey, of all people, for calling it out.
The fastest growing addiction that is destroying young men in their 20s is online sports gambling. FanDuel is a portal to hell. DraftKings ain't king of nothing except their own pocketbook. And they're screwing an entire generation of young men because you don't win. That's why they can afford to buy ads. They're back-to-back ads every time you turn on a sporting event. They're spending billions of dollars. You know where they're getting that? It's out of your kid's freaking pocket because they're screwing an entire generation. This is evil stuff right here.
I think otherwise he's in favor of it. I can't tell. It's hard to read between the lines, but that's my that guy for Dave Ramsey for calling all that out. Kevin, do you have anybody you'd like to shout out?
Sure, I got two Pauls. I just agree with that Paul Feinbaum take. It's unusual to get a backtrack like that, like for that in depth. So yeah, and then I got to give a shout out to Paul Miller just for inviting me and letting me be a part of this conversation. So.
Hey, don't give him so much credit. He takes all the revenue from the show.
Right place, right time.
I'm back level after you guys are talking about undefeated national champions. The scales are even now again, so it's all good, man.
I love it.
Thank you.
David, who's your that guy?
I wanted to note on what Kevin said. I mean, earlier in the show, he says that he didn't expect such a wonderful response from a Michigan fan about Indiana and all that, and then he's praising Paul. Seems like there's a guy left out here, Bill. I don't know.
I'm feeling it. I'm definitely feeling it. It's the lower, on my screen, it's the lower right-hand corner window, and he's wearing a green hoodie. So, David, maybe, could I be that guy, David?
It's almost. You were number two. I'm sorry. You finished behind J.B. Bickerstaff.
Am I still ahead of Scott Boras?
You're very much ahead of Scott Boras.
That's all I'm asking.
And you're head of Jimmy Johnson doing Extends commercials.
Yeah.
Sorry, you mentioned Jimmy Johnson earlier. And
man, where'd that come from?
Oh my goodness. I just remember those from growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
But that guy is JB Bickerstaff. He got announced to the head coach of the All-Star team. And I know we talked about All-Star teams not mattering. As far as the games go, they don't. But Cade being voted a starter. Hopefully, I think we find out in a couple days whether Jalen Duren will be on the All-Star team. But for JB Bickerstaff, from going from the worst record that you could have, losing 20-some games in a row, like, to now number one in the Eastern Conference, and we just went on the road and beat a tough Denver team. I know a couple guys were out, but I know you guys aren't huge NBA guys. I'm not either. I only care about the NBA when the Pistons are playing, and I've been really happy to watch the Pistons and Wings both leading their conferences right now. It's been a joy to watch these teams that aren't college football or NFL teams excel, and young talent that's grown up with us is producing. So JB Bickerstaff, hats off to you for getting the nod to coach the All-Star team.
Yeah, very cool. By the way, you mentioned earlier that you wish the Pistons would make a move. I'm not really sure that they need one.
Yeah, I think the one issue that we constantly keep seeing with the Pistons is a number 2 true scorer and guy who can get his own shot with the ball in his hands. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of people have speculated Lauri Markkanen and these things. The problem is the few years past, every time a guy that's even remotely good gets traded, it's 5 first-round picks.
Right.
Rudy Gobert. And so unless the market, which I think it is, I think the market's going to start to turn, and I don't think teams are going to give all that out. But there's 2 or 3 guys, Ivy and even if Tobias Harris, even though he's been unbelievable for us, like contracts you can put together with a couple picks, go get a guy that can actually come in and be a number 2 scorer. That's the one thing I'm a little nervous about. But defensively, it's the best team in the league, and Cade Cunningham's that dude. So,
yeah, he is.
Let's round things out as David continues to ponder that answer. Paul, it's time for the 3-minute message.
Homer, I'd like you to remember Matthew 7:26. The foolish man who built his house on sand.
And you remember Matthew 21:17.
And he left them and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there?
Yeah. Think about it.
Think about it. Before I get into the 3-minute message, I just want to, this is a little bit for Kevin's benefit, but for all you guys as well. I got a phone call last week from one of our Reach Students guys here in the EFCA complaining to me about how often we talk about the fact that Detroit sports fans have it worse than anybody else. So now what's happening is people are complaining about, when are you going to bring me on and let me talk about how terrible my town is when it comes to sports? So maybe we can do like a road trip, and we can just go around to Denver and Seattle and all these other places and give them a chance to talk about how soft Detroit sports fans are.
As long as all of them do exactly what Kevin signed the contract to do, which is deliver 5,000 downloads, they can all come on.
It's not Detroit sports. It's just the Lions. It's none of the other sports. It's just the Lions. Yeah. And if your team has ever won a Super Bowl, you're disqualified.
Get out. Just leave the room.
Seattle, get out of here.
Yeah, guys like Carson Greenhaw and Brian Sharp and other guys that Kevin knows, those are the guys that are reaching out to me and tell the Detroit guys.
One of those guys is an ultra marathoner who got lost on his route. What do we want to hear from him for?
I know. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I was thinking about this conversation, and I was really looking forward to it, Kevin. It was really fun to hear you talk as a Hoosier about what that's meant and all the other things. But I was thinking about the fact that I knew we were going to listen to that clip from Amanda Anisimova, right? And what made her response to the reporter so good is that she was composed and even-keeled, and she didn't respond quickly. She didn't jump. And then I compare that to like Paul Feinbaum, who, because he said a bunch of things that he probably shouldn't have said, had to go back and retract, and he did, to his credit and everything else. The verse that came to mind for me, for all of us from this conversation, James 1:19, know this, my brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. So I think all of us if we do a little inventory, we can think about the places where we tend to be quick to speak, quick to verbalize opinions or thoughts that maybe if we had paused for a second, we wouldn't have felt the need to say out loud. This podcast, Holy Discontent, accepted, right? That's the place where you have permission to do that. But everywhere else in life, let's take that verse and let's apply it. Whether that's in our relationships, at work, at school, whatever it might be. Let's be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger, and we'll gain respect from the people that are listening, and we won't have to do the retractions and apologies later. I just want to leave that with us as a challenge to take into our week.